Welcome to the year-end edition of Series Talk. I'm David Peters from Florida State University, joined as always by my good friend and colleague, Marty Dempsey from the University of Florida. Marty, how you doing?
Good, Dave. You know, can you believe 3 years of these things here?
It is the end of the year, the end of our third season. You're right. And, people tune in to the end of the year show for that awesome video montage, photo montage, and well, you all know how this year went. So don't expect that to just be, snapshots of Zoom calls, I guess. But we've got a lot done in those Zoom calls this year in the series. And today we're going to try to talk about that, kind of help you see what's been happening and where the series is going over the next couple of weeks, months, and years. So we wanted to focus today on the Series 2.0 progress. Take a look back, that was 3 years ago as well, and see how we're doing with the different priorities that were set forth at that time. And as a reminder, they are developing measures to evaluate operational success, educating our members for volunteer opportunities, focusing strategically on the participant experience, and communicating the impact of involvement. And to go along with those, we also had 6 focus areas for this year, right, Marty?
Yeah, Dave. So at the beginning of the year, we meet as a leadership team and decide, where are we going to put a lot of our energy throughout the year. And we developed these 6 focus areas, and those were assessment, social justice, our relationship with our regional events, clarifying roles within the championship series, a new series Hall of Fame, and finally virtual offerings, as we knew that COVID was going to have such an impact on our in-person events.
Well, and we did make some good strides in the virtual offerings. Let's lead off with kind of our successes there, because that was part of focusing on the participant experience, at least having something available throughout this year. And one of the ones that was just hosted recently was our Soccer Train the Trainer workshop, which had over 100 registrants. And it's great work just on how to train soccer officials. I attended. I am not a soccer fan, but found it really valuable just from both coaching soccer officials, just coaching officials in general. So special thanks to Nicole Breen, to Amy Rask, and to Sylvain Chapchet for their work in helping us put that on as a great series event for many of you, our members, and working with our soccer officials. But it's not all about just training folks and training officials. We also did some skills challenges this year too.
Yeah, we're looking for ways to engage with our participants, to stay connected in a year where we couldn't connect with them at our in-person events. So both soccer and flag football ran a series of skills challenges that hundreds of people interacted with online, lots of good impressions there on our social media channels. So it was just a way for us to say, hey, listen, we're still here. We still value you. We still want you to be around and stay active during our time of quarantine.
And you can see on the screen now our flag football work team for the past year. Special thanks to Gerard Davis in his 3rd year as a chair. We had to switch up the schedule a little bit. I'm glad that Gerard could stick around for an extra year this year and lead this team in both the challenges as well as contributing to the other projects we'll be talking about down the way here. Another thing that happened this past year as we tried to make sure that our volunteers are more informed is we had kind of an orientation session last year.
Yeah, this was an important initiative for us. One of the feedback that we got from volunteers is, we want that standardized onboarding process. They want to know what's going on overall within the series instead of just their little section. So last July, we invited all of our volunteers from our series work teams to join in on just an onboarding, just an educational talk a little bit about the series history, about what their roles are, their expectations, and really what are these focus areas so that we were all working towards the same goals throughout this year.
Well, we're only going to do that virtually, so a great way to plug that into our virtual offerings this year, and we expect that to continue as we roll through this summer and get a new batch of work team members coming on board pretty soon. Another great success this year was our esports event, the Esports Championship, which occurred earlier this spring. You can see the task force on the screen right now, about 102 teams, almost 900 participations. I will point you back to the Esports Series Talk special edition we did earlier this spring as well, so you can learn more about that event. But quite the success that was just thrown together by a great group of people.
Yeah, Greg Durham from Creighton University led a fantastic group, 14 different NIRSA members. Of course, Nicole Jackson from NIRSA HQ, couldn't have done it without her. And then our 8 shoutcasters that were there, and they provided such great highlights, over 24 hours of streaming coverage over 3 days. It was just a tremendous event. Check it out on SeriesTalk from earlier this month.
Of course, our esports championships brought some new people into the series. We did some assessment by our assessment work team. You can see them on the screen right now, led by Antonio Gonzalez from USF. And that group reached out to our esports championship participants and found that 80% of them, what's their first time with the series. So great to have some new people involved in our offerings. And glad to have the assessment team helping us figure out not just if they were new, but about their experience overall.
Yeah, the assessment team has been working throughout the year to integrate with all of our different work teams and really weave learning outcomes into all of our charges and goals so that we have accessible measures to really identify what operational success means to the series.
Well, and we've also been working quite a bit on educating our members about the volunteer opportunities. Again, one of those priorities that we have from Series 2.0, and leading that effort has been our student and professional development work team. Abby Van Note, the chair of that group, has done some amazing work this year, and just making sure that all of our documentation is together, that things are well described, that we have some consistency between different areas. In addition to that, they collaborated with our assessment work team and brand management on a volunteer application project. That was really just to help people better understand what they're getting themselves into when they volunteer, or why they should be interested, particularly those, Marty, outside of just the competitive sports realm, where many of our previous series of volunteers have resided. But we've got numbers because we've also done some great analysis from this year's work.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that. This was a project that the entire leadership team was really excited about. And you can see here the comparison between this year's committee in 2020, 2021 to next year's committee, 2021, 2022, and just a huge increase in just overall applications. And because of that, we opened up more opportunities. As you can see, we had 23 more people that are going to be serving on next year's committees than we even have this year. So more opportunities to spread throughout. You can see on here how the progress that we have made with maybe some of our more underrepresented categories on here. We can welcome Region Canada. They're serving on. We have multiple members from Region Canada that will be serving on within the championship series. Dave just mentioned programs outside of competitive sports. This is establishing a baseline. It's the first time that we've ever really been able to track that and have done that. So, hopefully you can see the applicants match, the number of applications match the number that were selected for that in terms of percentage. So, we've identified this as a goal, and now that we have a baseline, we'll work to make improvements on that for the future.
Representation has been a key part of the conversations that our new social justice task force have been having throughout the year. You can see the members on the screen, led by Jasmine Holmes. We had a great opportunity, Marty and I, to talk with members of that task force back in January. We encourage you to go back and watch the special edition of SeriesTalk that is on our YouTube channel now. So click and learn more about their work in January, but they didn't stop then. They continue to work and will continue to work even after this year.
Yeah, it's really been, that's going to be a 2-year committee. They're there all the way through May of next year. They are really setting the foundational pieces at this point for when we return to in-person events. As Dave, you mentioned representation. That's been a big thing of focus, education, as well as accessibility to our events. So again, check out that SeriesTalk from back in January. It's got so much great information. You can hear it direct from so many of our members there that have been very passionate and integral to that work. But speaking of accessibility, Dave, we have that continued partnership with Special Olympics and our unified team.
Absolutely. Take a look at those task force, not task force members, or they've switched over to committee. It's a work team there because unified and that work has been so important to what the series is doing. And this group has done a great job, led by Amanda Alpert. And they've also started up the Scoop, the new seasonal highlights of what's going on with unified, and also spotlighting a number of our very involved unified schools across the country.
That's been such a neat little initiative that they've taken on, impactful as well. I enjoyed reading the stories about how our universities across the nation have really embraced unified sports and some of the great results on it. If you're not running unified on your campus, I would encourage you, take a look at the Scoop. There's many great resources on there for you to talk to administration about potentially getting that started.
Here's a look at the basketball work team from the past year, led by Dr. Dexter Shorter. Glad to have their work on regional relationships, basketball along with other sports, because that's an area that we're working on our operational success.
Yeah, Dex and, our other sports as well, really, after we return to in-person events, what do our regional tournaments look like? How can we best help them, in terms of structure and providing resources and those things? Because, we know we're in uncharted territories at this point. So Dex and his team, they've updated their hosting manual to include unified information. And we've done that for basketball. We've also done that on the flag football side as well. We've developed a template for virtual captains meetings to enhance communication with stakeholders, just to make things an easier and a smoother process for both our participants and our staff, because we know that we need successful hosts in order to have a successful series.
Well, we're getting to that season. We'll be recruiting some new tournament hosts, and some of that work is also being helped by our brand management group, trying to get the word out about what the series is all about. You can see that task for that work team on screen right now, led by DJ Doss this past year. But if you're looking at hosting a tournament potentially next year, get your applications ready, right, Marty?
If you have ever had a thought that you may want to host a tournament, that might be good for your university, please reach out to us. Yeah, this is a time that we're going to need our NIRSA stakeholders, to really figure out how this whole thing is going to look after the pandemic. So, if you are interested, even in the slightest, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be able to talk it out and see if it's a good fit for you in your area.
Right now is our club basketball work team that was led by Josh Dietrich this year. And club basketball is one of two work teams this year that piloted a new vice chair role for the series. An opportunity for us to have someone come on board and kind of learn how to chair the group and then serve in a second year. So our chairs and vice chairs, it's a 2-year cycle. The rest of you, as you know, if you're a work team member, that's just a 1-year term. But really, I think that, as it was proven this year by club basketball, helps us with that sort of passing along of information. And so thanks to Matt Dunnigan for coming on board as the vice chair for this group. He'll stick around, even though Josh is headed out after his year and with club basketball. But not only that, we've done a lot of work with club basketball, including helping our hosts a little bit with how they run their events.
Yeah, again, another foundational year. We didn't have events, we didn't have a league. So how do we keep in contact with our teams, find out what they need and find out what our hosts need? We had talked to some of the hosts in the past, what made them successful, and really working on that manual to help develop. So that way, if you are interested in hosting a club basketball event, which is very different than a regional flag football or basketball event, then here's a guide, here's a template of what can make it really easy for you as a university.
We worked a lot on position descriptions in this clarifying roles section, not just with our chairs and vice chairs, but pretty much every part of a work team. What are you supposed to do when you're in that role? And some great work was accomplished this year.
Yeah, transparency being key. We want people to know what they're getting into. So and understand that when they get into a role, what are the direct charges of that experience, that leadership position that they're in. So we have worked very hard on on our chair, on our vice chair, on our members of all the director positions. Just if we had a role for you, we want you to understand the full position description before you come into the job.
Another thing that got a bit of a tweak this year was how we selected national directors for our basketball and flag football and soccer and those sorts of big events. And that process is engaged a little bit more with talking to people beyond just submitting an application.
Yeah. So we took a look at all three application processes: soccer, flag football, basketball. There were some unique differences between the three. And we said, how can we combine these to make it a paralleled kind of experience? So we're doing the flag football and basketball actually this spring to try to get new leadership on as we return to those events. They all instituted an interview process now with some of our finalists for the positions. So it really gave us a comprehensive look of what the next steps were needed for each one of those positions at those tournaments.
Take a look on the screen right now for the soccer work team from this year, led by John Janis. And that group, again, contributed to this national director work. Also made some transition. If you've been part of NIRSA Soccer before, you've heard of Tripod. It's now becoming the Teal team. Marty?
Yeah, so the Tripod, is a great group of a three-headed monster, if you will, of leadership for soccer, so integral to the success there. And with Teal, it's now a 4-person group. Sibby Barton from Michigan will be the newest member of Teal. So congratulations to her. That leadership is so integral to what has become really our largest tournament within the NIRSA Championship Series.
And educating our members is a part of clarifying those roles, not just knowing what the roles are, but then telling people about them. And again, you've heard us speak on a number of occasions, whether that's brand management or our student professional development group, or just pretty much the entire series leadership and all the groups we're working on informing people, whether that was through an introductory volunteer session, just helping people understand before they submitted their volunteer application, or as we mentioned earlier, kind of once you were on a work team, an orientation session for you to kind of help you understand with everyone what's going on.
As you can tell, no matter what initiative that is, communication is what we're looking to just be able to better do for our stakeholders. We want people to know what they're getting into, the timelines of things, what they can expect from the application process, what they can expect throughout their entire experience. So we know that it's a journey, and from recruitment to retention, we want the full circle to be just very transparent for our NIRSA stakeholders. So we've worked hard at that.
Shifting gears to our standards work team. You can see them on the screen right now, led by Danny Vitale. They focus this year on a particular project of interest to many of you who perhaps in the future will be part of the Series Hall of Fame. Actually, are working on developing parameters to expand the Hall of Fame, which those of you part of flag football know has existed in flag football for a number of years. But how can we continue to honor those who've given great effort and energy, both participants and volunteers in our other sports? And that's a lot of what the work has been done so far this year by our standards group.
Yeah, just mentioned recruitment and retention. Well, the third R is recognition. And we know how important that is to to the championship series. And we want to recognize the great work from, the many great athletes and participants that play, to our staff members that contribute so much of their time and volunteer their time to it, to our officials groups. There's so many different groups, and we do so in different pockets. And flag football has had this one section of the Hall of Fame that they've done for many years. And it's like, how do you expand that to now have just this very unified effort? So Danny's been working hard at that and really laying the foundation. And I think you'll see a lot more of that when we roll back to events this fall.
To continue working on these focus areas and others, along with all of our Series 2.0 priorities, is this group on screen now. It's your 2021-2022 leadership team for the series, chairs and vice chairs. Welcome, Jim Wilkening. He's joining the tennis squad. Finally, someone else to have a meeting with for tennis. I'm glad to be part of that for the next year as well. But all of these individuals will be part of our virtual summit, which we'll do online in June, and that will set the stage for work teams to get going this summer as well. So for those of you who have been selected to a work team, expect the orientation meeting to be sometime this summer, June, July, as we really get going with our initiatives headed into the new year. There, you can look for other volunteer opportunities as well. Regional and national flag football and soccer volunteer applications will open on August 1st. So get ready for that as we look forward to having tournaments once again this fall. And if you're looking to be a regional host, we mentioned it already, but flag football and soccer applications are available on May 25th. But now we've got some news to pass on, which is Marty is headed out. We got a few more days left in your term here before the new exec team comes on board. Here they are on screen now.
The NIRSA Championship Series is in really great hands with Ashley Lax leading the way, along with JJ, Jonathan Johnston, and Shane Land from UCF. It's a great committee. Ashley has been pivotal to my work here. It has been such an honor to serve with her for 2 years, and then JJ for the last year. And Shane and I, of course, know each other from the state of Florida, but I'm really excited about the new lengths that this team can take. So stay tuned. Big things are coming.
Oh, for sure. But big things have happened, Marty. So I want to take a moment. I know we did this in our last conference call. We'll do it again, but thank you. Quite honestly, this is the end of the third season of SeriesTalk. And, it really was Marty's vision here. It's the start of his executive leadership term back in 2018 to figure out ways of communication to many of you as stakeholders in the series who care so much about what happens at tournaments and at work teams and just his entire experience. How can that be communicated better? Marty said, let's try a little podcast. He called me up, gave me an invite and said, come on board, Dave. And I said, well, I can be a stand-up guy to have you share all the knowledge. And that's what he's been doing for 3 years. He's telling you all the good stuff. I'm just here to set him up for that. So Marty, thanks for the invitation. It's been great to do shows in person, whether that was Gainesville or Tallahassee. We've done it in front of a live studio audience, so to speak, at our national and regional events. It's been a heck of a lot of fun. And some of my favorite moments, I've said it before, in NIRSA are when we share the commentary box or the podcast screen. So thank you so much, Marty, for your great work in this and throughout the last 3 years.
Thanks, Dave. It's been one of the great honors of my career being able to serve in this role within the NIRSA Championship Series. And bottom line, I'm really proud that we took this year, which we could have relaxed. There was not much happening, but it wasn't a quiet year. We got things done, and it took a village to do that. And I'm so proud of the 75 plus volunteers that I get to serve with to really make an impact in 2020, 2021.
Well, the cliffhanger for today might be who the star is going to be in SeriesTalk in the future. We haven't figured out who's going to lead off season 4, but SeriesTalk is important. So it's coming back, and we hope to see you joining whoever that might be when we have our next edition later on this summer. So that's it. That is all for this edition, the year-end edition of SeriesTalk from the NIRSA Championship Series. For Marty Dempsey, I'm David Peters. Thanks for joining us today. This is a production of NIRSA, Leaders in Collegiate Recreation.